want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. Pain for their disease. Just like a wind, spread into the streets. Time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip gods in the weekend, harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.
Hey, welcome back, Prince Adam.
Welcome back indeed. You know, I edited that intro together and I've seen it week after week, but every week, I don't know what's going on out there, security. Every week,
Those are all your Doberman pinchers. Or are those
Sure.
the Rottweilers?
The Doberman cuddlers, more like it. Every week, Daryl Phelps's car just grabs you.
Oh, it's so good, right? Yeah. It's a beautiful ride for sure. You know, I look forward to the day when guys are kind of getting back into those themed rides, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
a little
I
extra
everybody
touch.
coming out with these new cars. I mean, I get that people like the nostalgic look of a pro mod or a hot rod, you know. And I guess I'm talking about pro mods in specific, you know.
Sure.
But I mean, why not even like funny cars, you know? I mean, everybody's looking, you know, clean and modern, and which is cool. But I like the theme stuff.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I think it adds a little extra flavor, extra little touch, personality. Kind of gives the car a little bit of life on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, like the old El Mero. Craig
Beautiful.
Sullivan's ride, man. What a cool ride. I hate to see that thing burn down, but
It was,
You know-
yeah, never like to see that, but
it's like the
That's
force. You
risk.
burn it down, something comes back even greater. So
that's the hope.
that's the hope. That is the hope. Oh, let me move this over a little bit.
Shut up! That's why we have a mute button. I may have to go.
Yeah, well, guess what? Your mute button didn't work. All we heard was shut up.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Adam has his probably his secret date came over on the wrong night of the week or something. Let's see if we can hear him yell at somebody. Anyways, welcome back to another episode of Adrenaline, the podcast, or should I say American Drag Racing League podcast, Thursday nights. Appreciate you guys being here with us. We want to thank our sponsors, Renegade Racing Fuel, Toby Baptiste. Hope you're doing well, brother. I know you're out there seeing your stuff all over the place. Fuel Tech, Luis. Appreciate you guys, Fuel Tech, and Chris Duncan Race Cars and Amanda Hoover. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Hope everything's well at the shop and you guys are kicking some booty. But until we get Prince Adam back on the horn with us, want to just kind of remind everybody. Oh, I see an arm.
Yeah, we had a breach in security.
A breach in security.
Just doing
How
their
did
job.
Somebody get on the compound like that?
These are the questions that we're going to ask as soon as the episode ends.
Oh, fair enough.
Surveillance footage.
Gotcha. I was just thinking to myself, like, holy cow, how did they jump that 15-foot fence? It's like wrought iron at that too, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and electrified. So
And electrified, yeah.
You know, they got to earn it.
Yeah. If they're there, they're meant to be there.
Yeah, it's serious at that point.
You're right. Well, I'm glad you took down the Constantine wire because I'm sure people really want to see you. So
yeah, well, you know, have a couple visitors. At least the
But what I was going to say is it's that time of year, Prince Adam. We're about 2 months out, 3 months, a little less than 2.5 months
5
out
days,
from.
who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? From Rocket City Drags in Huntsville, Alabama. That'll be October 25th and October 26th. And remember, world's fastest pro mods, the original 8th Mile Outlaw pro mod drag racing. As everybody knows, ADRL's got some records for attendance with those bad boys. So we're working to get back there, and we will get back there. It's getting better and better every event, wouldn't you say, PA?
Oh yeah, all in good time and with doing little crime.
That's right. Mike, what's good, man? Watch from Knoxville. It's funny because
25 this morning.
Mike is like the only dude that I know exactly where he lives. You know, what's up, Nick?
Bruce in the house.
Bruce, what's good, Bruce? Fellow gearheads doing the Snoopy dance. Right on. I like the Snoopy dance. Actually, I was a kid. I was a Snoopy kid.
I think all of us were.
Yeah. So Huntsville, Alabama, Rocket City Drags. We're going to be teaming up with the guys from The Verge and Brian and don't say it, Tyler.
Yeah.
You were almost going to
start it with Brian. I locked and loaded because
yeah. Sorry, Tyler. Nothing against you, man. It's the meeting just an absorbent amount of new people and and look, historically, I'm not a person that's good with names anyway. So
yeah.
So you've got an impact if I'm remembering your name. So that's good. But yeah, teaming up with The Verge at Dave's new facility out there. Sounds like it's hot and ready. So we're looking forward to getting out there, putting some asses in the stands and throwing down some times. It'll be October, so end of October. So the weather should be super nice. And then, of course, after that, we'll be doing our beautiful special event at XRP. Not that Dave's track isn't a beautiful special event. Don't want to minimize any of them. They're all badass. So, yeah.
XRP was my first track I ever went to. So
that's right.
A little bit of a special notch above, but
yeah. So, looking forward to it. That's coming up in November. Feeling the need for some speed. Amen, man. I am ready to get back to the track. Yeah, I mean, here in the Midwest, Adam works his ass off. Not only is I can't say enough for Prince Adam. He helps him and I run the ADRL, and then on top of that, he busts his ass for another organization who's actually going through a merger. So I know that could be quite a task. But being in the Midwest, I mean, really, we only have we got Worldwide Technology Speedway here, and then we got Flying H, and it's I'm kind of itching, man. We haven't been to a race in a while, and I'm just dying to go puff some tire smoke and some nitro, man, or alcohol or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'll take it all.
Yeah, just give me something other than oxygen, huh?
Yeah, so I'm itching. Give me something.
Sharpie and I'm happy.
Other than oxygen. Where's the super glue? I'm ready for the super glue. But yeah, so we got it going on, man. We're excited. It's going to be a great event, and we're going to start getting everything out here, getting the float ready. But we want to plant that seed. We're a few months out. Everybody knows it's on the list. Of course, throughout the year, we get people reaching out, asking us when our next event is. Realize that it's kind of a long hiatus in between events. However, there's learned many things in the military, and the Marine Corps. However, slow is fast, and I think that's important. It's done us well so far. So we planned 5 this year.
I hate that saying, but
I know Adam's itchy. He's got nothing. Yeah. He's.
I think fast is hauling ass, but that's my saying.
Yeah. You ever had speed wobble on a skateboard?
I haven't. I've had it in my brain. I can tell you that.
Let me tell you, it's not fun. It is not an enjoyable thing.
Oh, yeah.
However, it gives you a good appreciation for speed and how sometimes you just need to take it slow. Slow is fast. Anyway, so we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great event. And once we get the float set up, we'll get that out to everybody. And so it's going to be super fantastic. Other than that, I'm not going to get into it.
Okay.
I almost brought up
no, this isn't Tuesday night. We're not going down anywhere.
The maximum effective range of an excuse. Is that what it says? I can't see that.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Agreed.
I should just keep my politics to myself. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, is dudes beating the shit out of chicks in the middle of a boxing ring politics? I don't know.
It's not drag racing, I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, then we'll stay out of it.
If that decides it.
Okay. It does. Fair enough. I'll keep it there. This is not the Tuesday night podcast.
No.
All right. Fair enough. But anyways, I'm still a little heated on that. But I digress.
Yep.
So let's see. How many minutes are we in? About 17 minutes in. That's good. Buddy Plant. All right, man. We'll see you in Huntsville for sure, dude.
I'm sure we'll be great. See you early, probably before racers, if Georgia was any indication.
Hey, what race is that up in Michigan at US 131? What, they had some type of nationals? They have a nationals this coming up weekend, or?
Great question.
I don't know, man, but they had a lot of US 131, and man, they had just a whole line of rigs waiting to get in. That's a beautiful sight, man. I love nothing more than just seeing a whole huge line of rigs and a whole huge line of spectators waiting to get in and get their eardrums blown out. That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting eardrums blown out,
one Northern Nationals presented by Gun Lake Casino, PDRA Northern Nationals.
Yeah, that's what was that? The US 131?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
That'll be tomorrow.
Oh, that's this weekend. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think that's too far from us, man.
Good question.
Yeah. I don't know. Are you sending me something, or are you just looking at your phone?
Nope. Just looking at my phone. I was just doing my Googling on the phone since it made it a little bit easier.
Okay. Gotcha. We always early. Hell yeah. Yes, you are, buddy. It's funny because
we got there.
Buddy's
and
there like
part of the track. I was like, oh, they have an RV that sits outside of the fence from time to time too.
Yeah. I mean, usually we're doing overnight stacking on Thursday night, but it's like Buddy gets there Wednesday night.
Yeah, Buddy don't play.
They're ready to hang out Wednesday night. Let's party. Let's get the pits going.
Yeah.
But yeah, so speaking of getting eardrums blown out, we do have a very special guest coming on to join us tonight. And I do want to give Nick Rabe another shout out. He's done a good job of reaching out to some folks. Again, Adam and I know who we know, but we don't know everybody. And I think it's a good idea to kind of branch out and meet new people. And you never know where things can go, right? I mean, whether you're getting help or somebody wants to come compete with you or participate in your event. It's good to it's definitely good to meet new people. And Nick, we wanted to give a shout out to you for lining up some of these guests that we're having on, because I haven't known didn't know the past 3 guests, but now they're like part of the family, so part of ADRL Nation. So I love it. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Carter. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Nitro Joe Morrison, with that sweet altar in the background, man. That thing's bitchin'. What's up, my man?
What's happening? Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, glad you could join us, man. So Yeah, Nick has done, I don't know how you know Nick, but Nick has done a good job of lining up some guys for us for the podcast. And, with Prince Adam and I being new on this side of the fence, we're meeting new people all the time. So do appreciate you joining in. And, I like to keep this not so scripted. I'm more of a laid back kind of guy, right? Like, let's just bench talk. Let's just bench race a little bit, talk about some things, get to know each other, and just bullshit like we're having some beers. Or I don't know. Sorry, Prince Adam. I just swore, but I'll try to, how us guys are.
I'll never tell. Your secret's safe with me.
All right, sweet. Well, one thing that I noticed that I wanted to, I guess not necessarily talk about first, but that just came to mind. Tell me about your Right to Breathe, or what's this program that you got going on that, because my younger daughter suffers from asthma, and actually we almost lost her a few years ago. She was horseback riding. We had no idea about any of it. She was super allergic, and went in an anaphylactic shock and almost didn't make it to just instantly. It was horrible. But tell me about what you got going on with that. That would look really interesting.
That is exactly one of the reasons why we do what we do. It's funny, if Right to Breathe this is our 10-year anniversary this year, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
My buddy Tim Charlet and I started it way back in 2014. But if you would have asked me in 2012, even, hey, you're going to run a nonprofit, I would have laughed at you. I'm like, yeah, a landscaper from New Jersey with 4 kids, and I'm trying to chase a drag racing dream. What would I be doing starting a nonprofit? But we were already, that's a little misleading. We were already at that point doing some work with the COPD Foundation because my dad was diagnosed with COPD. So
that's a tough one.
The short story, my dad that's how I got into drag racing. My dad was a stock and super stock racer in the 60s into the 70s while my brother and I were young, in almost into the 80s, late 70s. My grandfather, my dad's dad, passed away from lung cancer. And my dad had to take over the family plumbing business. We couldn't afford to keep drag racing, but we still kept going to the races. And I loved it. I mean, I just, all I wanted to do since I was a little kid. And it's funny. I like to say I'm one of the few people that can say I've been going to the drag races since before I was born. My mother was working in the timing tower at Island Dragway while she was pregnant with me. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, like literally my whole life, man. I cut neighbors' lawns when I was 10 years old, borrowed my parents' lawnmower so I could buy my own go-kart, and tore it apart. My dad told me you could advance the cam one tooth to get a little more acceleration. And when I found out that model airplane fuel had nitro in it, I decided I was going to pour that in the tank. So
yeah.
Burned a few pistons, blew up a couple of Briggs & Stratton motors, and had a grand old time doing it.
But
the Right to Breathe thing. So what happened was after my dad gave up racing, years passed, right? I was finally able to give racing back to him, and that's when he was diagnosed with COPD. He didn't get diagnosed until he had lost about half of his lung function. And when we found out that was a common story, there are people that have it and don't know it. And if you can get diagnosed early, you can slow or stop the progression of it. So if my dad would have been diagnosed earlier, there's a chance he'd still be alive. He passed away 3 days after his 70th birthday in 2016. And, we had already started Right to Breathe. And the great thing about that was it gave his suffering some meaning. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law had COPD. And really what it was, there were a lot of different things that happened in my life that were all respiratory related. Not the least of which, you're talking about your daughter. When my third child was born, Brent, are we frozen? There we go. When Brendan was born,
we're good.
All right, cool. When Brendan was born, he had aspirated. His lungs were full of amniotic fluid. They had to medevac him from Huntington Medical Center here in Flemington down to Children's Hospital in Philly. Thank God we didn't lose him, but we almost did. He spent 10 days in the intensive care unit. Years before that, my brother and I, we had an exchange student live with us from Norway. He had severe asthma. A couple of years after we had visited him. He had an asthma attack and didn't make it.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
So,
Holy cow.
so yeah, Kai, his name was Kai, a wonderful, wonderful kid. And he was far enough away from the hospital in Norway where
I just
had
couldn't make it in time.
He didn't make it. And so really, after we had done some volunteer work with the COPD Foundation, and I still have a bunch of great friends over there and we still work with them, we decided we wanted to start Right to Breathe to help provide free lung screenings to the racing community and beyond. So we, when I was just racing in Norwalk, actually the picture in my background is me and Paul Smith's Nitro Funny Car in Norwalk.
Nice.
We had a partnership with the Cleveland Clinic and we did free lung screenings for folks. I was really thankful. We had Erica Enders and Josh Hart did an autograph signing for us on Friday. I had my buddy Chris King. We had Mike Booker do an autograph signing on Saturday. Tony Schumacher and Ida Zetterstrom did a couple of social media posts, and due to the rain and the schedule change on Saturday, they couldn't come, but they're going to be with us in Maple Grove doing an autograph session. I'm really honored to have a bunch of my fellow drivers support this effort to let fans know, like, hey, you know what? Becoming increasingly short of breath is not a normal sign of aging, and there's something you can do about it, and you have hope. So the essence of Right to Breathe is we want people to keep doing what they love to do, because that's how my dad was able to survive for 10 years after diagnosis, coming racing, and we were racing together and having an awesome time, even though he was on oxygen all the time. But the racing thing kept him motivated to stay healthy. And so our message is simple, man. You got to do what you love in life. A passion for what you do is important. And we believe people can overcome great obstacles when their passions inspire them. So there you go. Probably a longer story than you wanted.
No, that's great, man.
That's the Right to Breathe story right there.
I love it. Well, when I saw that, it immediately kind of, hit that heartstring a little bit because of the experience we had with our daughter. And, I was like, oh, I wonder what that's all about. And I was really curious to see how you were tying that into the community. And man, that's really great what you're doing, brother. And yeah, keep doing that. If there's anything we can do to help support that, again, it's there's a lot on my end that I don't have anybody, we've not been, no one on our side has had any dealings with, with COPD or anything like that. But, it was unfortunate that it just happened to be my second oldest daughter, and like almost losing her was just horrible. Right. So it means it does have a lot of value in my world. So if there's anything the ADRL could do to help kind of promote that as well, man, we're all about it. At least awesome. I am. I share the word. So
we will definitely be in touch, because we're doing everything we can in to support any racing series. Again, it's racing that kept my dad motivated to stay healthy. And again, that's my passion in life, man. I grew up thinking I would never have a chance to race anything, let alone be lucky enough to be licensed in Top Fuel and Nitro Funny Car. But that, listen, man, we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll do some stuff with Right to Breathe at an ADRL event in the future. And
would love it, man.
Support with my Fiat altered and come racing, and
you have an altered Fiat?
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Dude, get out of here, man. Like, it's funny you said that, because the other day I was sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking about all the altereds and how we don't have a whole lot of turbo cars. We got a lot of blower cars and nitrous cars, but they're all pretty much the same cars, right? They're the Camaros or Mustangs, just the general, guys our age, we love 69 Camaros and all that stuff, right? I mean, so of course it makes sense. And I thought to myself, like, what other kind of car could you turn into a pro mod that'd be really cool? And the fact that did you really say Fiat? Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's an altered. So it's basically it's a funny car chassis,
right?
But it's got a 1948 Fiat Topolino body on it. And
is that this one back here?
Yep, that's the one. Except
that's
now
the one.
The injected alcohol motor, we got a supercharged alcohol motor in it now.
Oh, nice, man.
So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, dude, we'd love to have you come out and run that bad boy, because we did this year introduce our extreme dragster class. So we have altereds, we have dragsters, no rules, old fashioned ADRL style, no rules. So run what you brung kind of stuff. So, Joe, what is your experience with the ADRL? Now, you being up in the Northeast, did you ever get a chance to come race with the ADRL back in the heyday, or did you have any
No.
experience with the ADRL?
I had come to an event, and I got to remember which track it was at. Not Rockingham. Where the heck? One of the tracks in I want to say in Virginia, if I remember correctly. Early on, I was just intrigued by it, and I thought what an awesome thing. And so I've been kind of following along with you guys along the way, and all the changes that have gone on. And so
Yes.
yeah, I think people coming together. Yeah, people coming together to keep drag racing, give multiple options to racers, give different, and each organization has its own flavor. And I think it's a fantastic thing. So I've never been able to race with the ADRL yet.
Yeah. Oh, love that.
I like that word.
Yeah,
me too.
So, the Fiat would be legal if we're talking NHRA wise. It'll be legal in, say, Top Dragster, right? A center steer car. Not sure if you guys have a class where that would work. I know, really, obviously, I'm a big fan of Pro Mods, man. I love Pro Mods, and I love everything that you guys have done in that aspect of things. And so that's really what attracted me to ADRL in the first place. Just because Pro Mods are badass, man. They're just absolutely wicked, and I dig them big time. So that's great.
Yeah, awesome, man. So, well, that's cool, because it's, it seems like at some point almost all of the competitors or racers or teams that we've talked to have had some experience with the ADRL at some point. And it's important for us in our side of the community to kind of rekindle things and kind of get it back going and get the ship rightened again, back up on plane, and just have some really killer events with a ton of spectators, and get to where when you're coming to an event, there's 20, 30, 40,000 people like it used to be, and it's going to take a lot to get there, but we got that unwavering faith that we're going to get there.
Dan Lucas says, bringing that Fiat on out. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. Old Dan Lucas. Yeah. Joe, do you know Dan? Do you know old Dan Lucas?
It's funny. The name is so familiar. I bet you we've met, but I can't place it right off the top of my head. I see we've got my buddy Dennis Champney here. And, I drive Dennis's alcohol funny car, and we've done some match racing. We've done some funny car chaos stuff with Dennis's car.
Nice.
And he's a great guy, and I enjoy racing with him too. I've been really lucky to have people trust me with their race cars, Dennis being one of them, my buddy Rocky Perrone being another, and that's actually, I was driving Dennis's car when I met Nick down at Summer Duck Dragways. So
no kidding.
Talking about full circle. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on, man. Yeah. Nick couldn't be a better ambassador for the ADRL at this point. I mean, everybody is, because it's just had a great experience, but man, Nick has been lining them up, dude. And again, thanks, Nick. So Joe, let's talk about where you're at now. So you're currently competing in NHRA, is that right? The funny car?
Yeah. So I did my first national event in Nitro Funny Car in Norwalk, Ohio, back in June. My next event, I'm lining up the last bits of things I need to be able to race at Maple Grove Raceway for the Pep Boys Nationals through Bob Leverage. There you go. That's how I know Dan. It's through the Leverages. So I first started chasing this, dream of driving a nitro car back in 2013. Friends with Jim Oberhofer. Jim O has been a wonderful guy. And I was trying to put together money I first approached him when he was with Kalitas, and I said, I want to drive a Kalita funny car. And Jim O said, hey man, start with the dragster, get used to the speed, then switch over. I'm like, you know what? You're a smart guy. I'm going to listen to that advice. And it took me until 2020, when the Leverages gave me an opportunity to drive their Top Fuel car, and I got licensed. Finished up my license at Maple Grove Raceway. So now that Englishtown is closed, that Maple Grove has kind of become my national event home track. Island Dragway is my real home track here in Jersey.
Yeah.
But Yeah, 3 years of 2020, 21, and 22 part-time with the Leverage team, and Gary and Dan were just great guys. Bob Leverage, just an absolutely wonderful guy, and had the honor of driving their car, and then had the opportunity to switch to funny car. And that's where my heart has always been. I've always driven funny cars and fuel altereds. I mean, my only experience in dragsters has really been, I got licensed in Jerry Darian's A fuel car that Casey Grizzle just won the Seattle National event in the car that I licensed in 10 years ago. Yeah. 2014 in Bakersfield, I licensed in Jerry Darian's A fuel car with Casey there, actually.
Nice.
But 5 passes in an A fuel car, 6 or 7 passes in a Super Comp style bracket dragster. That was my only long car experience before I got in the top fuel car. So I loved it. It was great. I mean, 11,000 horsepower. What can you say?
I mean, I honestly, I can't wrap my head around it. I had my first experience with John Sullivan and his Patriot, his altered Patriot. And we're in the pits. He's like, "Hey, Ryan," he's like, "Hey man, have you ever sat in a hot rod, a dragster?" And I was like, "No, man." I was like, "I haven't." And he goes, "Well, come to the pits. Let's go to the pits." So we get in there, and he's like, "Hey, you want a mask?" I'm like, "No, I want to eat it up, man. I want my eyeballs burning. I want the whole experience." And so he sat me in there, and we fired it up, and he let me take a couple, throttle whaps at it, and holy cow, man! Like I couldn't, I'm a weekend warrior. I've got a 70 Cutlass with like a blown 454, right? And it's a weekend cruiser, right? But this was 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower, was mind-blowing to me. I can't even wrap my head around 11,000 horsepower. And I mean, I don't know. That's like just sitting on a rocket and praying and letting off a button and just, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I can't even fathom what that's like. When I watch Travis Pastrana take a rip, I don't know if you watched that when he took a rip down in that top field dragster, and he was just like, "Oh my," he was like, I mean, clearly a guy that's jumped out of planes with no parachutes and shit.
Oh yeah. And perfect. I think the best examples really are exactly that. Travis Pastrana, and then Tony Stewart coming into the NHRA. I mean, here this guy is one of the best race car drivers in the world. He licensed in a top fuel car and said, "I'm not ready for this yet. I need seat time to really do it the way it's supposed to be done." It's respectable. I mean, at the risk, there really are no words. At the risk of understating it, these things are really fast.
Yeah, I mean,
really. I mean, look, Mike Salinas broke 300 miles an hour at the 8th mile in 2.93 seconds.
Right. I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, really? Yeah. I really can't even wrap my head around it. It's not anything I aspire to get into. Really right now, I'm just trying to build, like a 5.0 index car and just start there, a 5.0 index.
And look, truth be told, I love drag racing. I don't care if I'm racing an 18-second VW Bug. If I'm racing, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I just and there's the great thing about drag racing in my mind, right? I don't see what I'm doing. All right, it's faster, and there's a different set of skills and things that things you have to manage and understand at that speed. Okay, fine. But I'm no different. And I'm no different than you or anybody that's racing in, the weekend bracket class. I mean, we're drag racers. What we drive, to me, is kind of irrelevant.
I don't know. I'd imagine that you probably walk around pretty bow-legged carrying that chair around like that, man. Cause that's insane. But I hear what you're saying. There's really kind of no difference per se, right?
We love drag racing, and the thrill is the same. The speed is different, fine, but the thrill is absolutely the same. I remember my first time racing actually was at Raceway Park. I had a 70 Chevelle,
nice.
four-speed car. It was a board and stroke 383 with an M21. I had a 10-bolt open rear with a 273 gears. I was running 13s, low 13s. I'd go through the traps in third gear, 5,500 RPM at 105 mile an hour. You know, and I thought I was John Force or Don Perdome at that point. You know,
it's hilarious.
It was just, you know.
So when you're in a car like that, a top fuel nitro or nitro funny car, is there ever a moment like, you know, guys, I think, or some guys like to push things, right? And it's like, screw it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, until something happens where you sort of get that oh shit moment, like, oh my gosh, that was, and then all of a sudden your respect for it totally changes. Have you ever had a moment where, you know, you're strapped in and, you know, you're used to making your passes, but then things got a little squirrely on you and you were like, holy hell, that could have been bad real quick?
You know, what's funny is in other cars, yes. In the nitro cars, you don't really have time. I mean,
I see.
You do and you don't, right? So the faster you go, typically your mind is able to speed up to process what's happening. You know, I like to say I'm not thinking in words, I'm kind of thinking in concepts as things are happening.
Yeah.
And in the alcohol cars, you know, you have a little bit more time where you can like, okay, it's, you know, it's starting to rattle the tires. You know, do I hit the next gear to increase wheel speed? Like, what do I want to do?
Right.
You know, how long do you hang with it? In the fuel car, you have a split second. I mean, I remember there was one run in the leverage car. I don't remember what happened. We were a little aggressive with the clutch, and it dragged the motor down. It rattled the tires, and it shook pretty good. And I remember thinking, man, I hung with that a little too long, because when it's on a good run, it'll quiver the tires.
Right.
But there's a fine line between, like, it'll start to quiver and then go into shake. And then you got to decide, do I pedal it? Like, what, and how are you going to manage that? What are you going to do?
Right.
And that would lead to that oh shit moment you're talking about, right?
Right.
Well, so we get back to the pits, you know, and I say to Gary, I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I think I stuck with that a little too long. He's like, well, let's look at the computer. I'm like, yeah, it was kind of an eternity to me. Well, from when it started to rattle the tires to when I lifted was 0.4 of a second.
Holy cow. That, yeah, I mean, that's
so there's no time
decision making.
You know, at one of the runs in Norwalk, we shook the tires in a nitro funny car. That's a whole other experience. I had one of the guys told me, tire shaking in a nitro car, it's different than an alcohol car. In an alcohol car, like, you know, it shakes, you know, your head rattles, everything rattles.
Choppier.
Yeah, you can't see. I mean, really, it's grip and release. So it's like putting your head in a paint shaker.
Right, exactly.
It's like, you know, rattles like something fierce. And it's violent and it's nasty and it hurts a little bit. And you're like, you lose your vision and you lift and it's over. Well, the tire shaking a nitro funny car, this thing shook. I mean, I had a handful of wheel. It turned sideways. I got it straight, kept it off the wall. But my first thought after tire shaking a nitro funny car is, where the hell am I?
Oh, no kidding. Like, it almost blacked you out.
It was a whole different animal.
Really?
Whole different animal. And Bodie, John Smith was like, so how do you feel after that? I'm like, wow, dude. Just wow. Just
yeah,
wow.
I never really thought about tire shaking a nitro car. Yeah, I mean, it's probably double the violence.
Oh, it's vicious, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I love it. I have a serious respect for these machines. You know,
yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm having a blast, and you know, Paul Smith is a guy that can, you know, generally he gets the car down the track. I mean, in Norwalk, we were experimenting a little bit with a new fuel system, and we were testing some things and figuring some things out. But you know, Paul's a brilliant guy. Bodie's a brilliant guy, and just the honor I have of driving with him. But yeah, to have that tire shake experience, it was like, holy crap. And you don't really have time to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, things happen and you respond to them or you don't. And if you don't, well, you're in a world of trouble.
Yeah. No, I think shit's okay. I think we can say shit.
Yeah, I'll approve it.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, we've had guys, unfortunately, we've had a few accidents. Actually, we've had one accident. We've had some close calls, and and that was always one of the questions, because I didn't grow up. I'm kind of starting my lineage now, right? I didn't get to my parents weren't into drag racing. My grandparents weren't into drag racing, even though my grandfather did own a dirt track. That was kind of my start as a kid, going to the local dirt track, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I've always been intrigued, because I'm always somebody that's pushed the limits and have had a whole lot of oh shit moments myself, right? Where you're all of a sudden you feel invincible, and then something happens. You're like, whoa, all right, well, yeah, slow down a little bit. But like with the pro mods, I remember Steve Wiley last year at XRP. He went down the track, tires broke loose, and he cut to the right lane and went up on two wheels, and then landed and brought it back right before he hit the wall, and I mean, there's a million videos of this kind of stuff, these things happening, and I asked him, I said, my gosh, man, you were going so fast. That happened so fast. Like, what was your brain thinking? Like, what happened? He goes, well, I knew they broke loose and I let off, but the problem is there's still so much fuel in the fuel line that even when you have that reaction to let off, it's still pumping fuel and it's still going. So it's like you let off and then you ride out the last bit. And I just thought to myself, like, man, you guys are crazy, but like crazy awesome. Right. So yeah. No, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So let's talk about the motors. Okay. I don't know if you're a mechanic yourself, but it sounds like since you were a kid adjusting timing on a Briggs & Stratton, you could be inclined. So, when I see like pro mods, right, and they're, 4,000-5,000 horsepower. There you go. Are you on a boat? Oh no, you're on your deck. Sorry.
Right?
It looks like you're under
my wife's
pontoon.
got these lights on. I'm in my backyard. I was like, look at the virtual background. I feel like I was half disappearing. So I was like,
no, that's a great background.
The change in the lighting from the sun will impact those.
There you go. I got a ring light over here. I knew it was going to get dark. I figured I needed to have some kind of light out here. So
it's perfect.
Yeah. You got a great little background going.
Yeah, I love it. So when we talk about motors, Joe, so I'm mechanically inclined. I didn't go to school for it, but I do like motors, and I understand, so without regressing or digressing here,
sure.
When I look at the guys, they all run Hemis, right? They all run these big screw blown Hemis, and they're doing 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower.
Oh yeah.
What in the world happens between these 900 cubic inch motors with screw blowers to go from 4,000 and 5,000 horsepower to 11,000 horsepower? Like, what? There's something dramatically has changed to get from A to B. And for me, I'm thinking like the top, obviously there's motors that have a whole lot more horsepower, but when you're thinking 900 cubic inch with a screw blower, I can't imagine how you would get to 11,000 horsepower. So where's the differentiator there to get to double the horsepower?
So it's funny, and that's one of the reasons why I got the nickname Nitro Joe. It's the nitromethane fuel. So and the difference is, and even with my the chemical formula for nitro, which is that CH3NO2, just like nitrous oxide, you can burn more fuel with nitrous oxide because it's an oxidizer, right? You need to keep that air to fuel ratio where you can burn the fuel. Without enough oxygen, you can't burn the fuel. Well, nitro carries its own oxygen molecule in the fuel, so you can burn so much more of it. It's funny, most people don't realize this, but gasoline has more power per gallon than nitro. But
really,
the difference is, you can burn so much more nitro because of that O2, that oxygen molecule in it. And the fuel is what provides that. It's explosive. It's in the same class of chemicals as TNT, believe it or not. Nitro isn't all that flammable, but it's explosive when compressed.
Yeah, it's that compression
And so
factor.
when you put all that boost, 60 pounds of boost from an 1871 blower, and when we're on the run, well, let me back up a minute. From when we start the car, do the burnout, back up and make the run, the engine is only running for, say, 1 minute and 50 seconds-ish. 2 minutes, minute 45. People have different length routines, right?
Right.
In that period of time, we'll burn 15 gallons of fuel.
What?
And a gallon and a half per second on the run.
Holy cow! So you have decent sized fuel cells in these things.
Oh, we've got
huge ones
on a top fuel dragster. You've got a 15-gallon fuel cell. The fuel line that goes from the fuel cell back to the motor is 3 inches around. It looks like a fire hose. The fuel line will hold a gallon of fuel just itself.
Oh,
holy cow, man!
And we have these, dual pumps driven off the camshaft, dual fuel pumps.
Yeah,
that together will 115 gallon per minute.
So there's dual fuel pumps, and is that going to each side of the engine? One for each side?
They both run into the barrel valve, and then from the barrel valve, you have fuel injectors in the injector hat because you want fuel going through that blower to keep the blower cool. Then you have port nozzles right into the intake ports, and then you have other nozzles behind the intake valve. So there is just I don't remember what the total number of nozzles is. You have to forgive me for not having that number off the top of my head.
Oh, it's all good.
But each cylinder, I don't remember how many hat nozzles there are, but I mean, there's just, it's almost at hydraulic lock. There's so much fuel going into these cylinders.
So you have them in the hats, you have them at the intake, which I'd assume, not into, so do you have them in the hats and then into the blower itself and then into the intake?
No,
or there's none in the blower.
In the hat and then in the intake manifold right below the blower. And then in the head behind the intake valve.
Now, is the ones behind the intake valve, those are a
ton of fuel going in there.
Those are probably ones that I guess help regulate every individual cylinder, right? It's like fine tuning the cylinders.
Yes. So my buddy Rob Flynn, who is Mike Salinas' crew chief right now, and it's been for a while. Rob says it the best way. Rob said it's like tuning 8 one-cylinder engines.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because naturally, right? Naturally, depending on the intake, fuel doesn't go to each cylinder equally, right? Correct. So you have to, and that's where all the computers and all the fanciness comes in. And
that's why they started doing the intake manifolds and moving the blower backward. Because what would happen is cylinders number 1 and 2 would get the vast majority of the boost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. So the idea of the setback manifold is it would distribute the boost more evenly throughout the engine.
Yeah, so man, I just, when I'm talking to you, Joe, I just keep imagining sitting in there and it's just rattling and you just mash the pedal and then boom, let off. And it is 0 to heaven in 3.5 seconds. Like, it's just, I can't even, good for you, man. Like, that's just so exciting. Good for you. And every other Nitro funny car, hey, Funny Car Chaos. I want to give a shout out to those guys. The past handful of years, they've been kicking ass, right? They've done some great shows and had some really good turnouts.
Yeah.
Thanks to my buddy Dennis Champney for letting me drive his Hellbound Funny Car. We've got to do a few Funny Car Chaos events. We did the one in Maryland at MIR last August. We went to Texas this year for the big event down there at Texas Motorplex. We went to Cordova, and then we'll be running at MIR again at the end of this month. So that's one of the events I have coming up. I will be at Island Dragway with my Altered this weekend. Weather permitting, yeah, we'll be racing my buddy Mike Gironi, and I see he's on the chat. Mike's got a killer Fiat Funny Car, and so excited about that. I see Nick saying there from James Kraft from Nitro Chaos. Yeah. That is good old Monday Morning Racer doing an amazing job with Funny Car Chaos.
We had him on a couple weeks ago. He was a great guy.
Yeah, he is just super fun guy.
I'll tell you what, he's awesome and passionate about racing and really does a great job showcasing the Funny Car Chaos guys and folks in NHRA too. So
is the NHRA your so I didn't mean to cut you off there, brother.
That's cool.
Is NHRA like your bag? Is that like that's your goal, NHRA? Because I see a lot of guys that they transition, for example, like this, like Jason Scruggs and some other guys that had historically ran with us, but they've really been wanting to chase that pro mod NHRA stuff. So Is that kind of where you're at? Are you really kind of heavy getting into the NHRA racing?
Yeah, and that's been my goal. Really, as long as I could remember. I mean, it's funny. The stuff that I love to do is everything your mom and dad tell you don't do because you can't make a living at it, right?
Right, exactly.
I love music. I'm a guitar player and a musician.
Oh shit! Get out of here.
I'm doomed to a life of
this
being
interview just
frustrated
hit
and
the
broke,
wall.
Yeah. This interview went just direct. I mean, I don't know that we could have segued that you could have
hard left
segued.
turn for Ryan.
Oh yeah. Because now I got now my brain just goes a whole different
He's gonna
direction.
have to dive into it. Just go into your segment now and
yeah, I'm going to.
bridge
So
that way.
Joe, every podcast we do, I have a segment called In the Groove, and I come from a long line of musicians, not
Awesome.
dragsters, but musicians, and and I didn't know that. Not to get into my life story, but my parents separated when I was young, and I didn't ever really know my father's side super well. And it wasn't until I was a teenager into my late teens that I found out that, I've got this whole huge lineage of musicians on my side. And I picked up guitar naturally at like 9 years old. A buddy of mine's dad, he was a pastor. They played in their church. He was a guitar player. And so I went over there after school and I picked it up and I was hooked and I borrowed it. And then that was it. I never took lessons. I was self-taught. The passion, the drive there was just absolutely ridiculous. However, to get back to the segment, I'm a musician myself. And what I like to know and what I've been asking racers is, what are you listening to? And now I know with you being a musician, you probably feel this more than most folks, right? It depends on a Saturday afternoon cruise, or if you're on the lake or the river on a boat ride, or if you're in the pits getting ready for a race. I think that a lot of us have different genres that we're listening to, but when you're moving and grooving, you're getting ready and you're getting suited up and you're ready to make a hit, what are you listening to that really get your blood going, that get you pumped up, ready to rock and roll?
Oh, so I have a very wide range of music that I listen to. And again, not to get too off on a tangent, I chased a music career for a number of years.
Really?
I thought
away.
the only way I would be able to go drag racing would be, and show you how low my IQ is. I thought if I could make enough money in music, I would be able to afford to go drag racing, right? And I got pretty close. I got to be honest. I mean, I had some great memories and really had a lot of fun. And but all right, so what do I listen to? Again, you're exactly right. Like, it depends, and it depends on where I need my energy level. I am a student of the mental game of drag racing, and I know for me to perform at my best, I have to get into the zone, and depending on what's happening, my energy level might be above that zone, and I got to bring it back, or it may be I got to amp myself up. Depending on what's going on. So I like some of these like indie bands, bands that not a lot of people have heard of. My younger son and I just went and saw a band called King's X last weekend here in New Jersey.
Yeah. Heard of them.
Fan of them. I mean, I'm like old school. Like, I like old school Metallica.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Van Halen fan. I mean, hearing Eddie Van Halen as a young kid playing guitar was life-changing.
Right.
So I like a lot of the old school stuff. I mean, the band I'm in now, we do a lot of classic rock stuff.
It's great.
But I'm also I'm a huge blues fan.
Amen.
I mean, everything from some traditional like Albert King, B.B. King, all the way to, the stuff Clapton did, Stevie Ray Vaughan. The first time I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan, I bought the David Bowie Let's Dance album, and I'm like, who is this guy?
Right.
Who is this Stevie Ray Vaughan guy? I never heard of him before.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan, he was life-changing for me as well. And I'm an old school metalhead. Really, that's kind of what I grew up listening to. right as Cowboys from Hell was kind of, my older brother was just listening to Cowboys from Hell, and then Vulgar Display of Power came out from Pantera, and then not long after that, you know, I just got off of Master Puppets, and then Injustice for All came out. But then, you know, my older brothers listened to Iron Maiden and, you know, of course, Slayer and all the good stuff, right? I was a full-on metalhead, but you know, growing up, my parents were huge classic rock folks, so you know, I was growing up listening to Led Zeppelin and Electric Light Orchestra and Kansas and Heart, you know, all the good stuff from the 70s, you know. So what kind of rig do you play?
So right now I'm playing out of a I have two different guitars. So I'll shorten this story up. Was playing in the Village in New York City, and I had two guitars with me. I had an American-made guitar called a Carvin, and then I had a 1979 Les Paul Custom, black with gold hardware.
Nice.
Both guitars stolen out of my car because the manager of the band was like, "We got to have a quick meeting," and I'm like, "All my stuff's in the car," and he's like, "It'll just take a minute." Well, somebody saw me load the guitars in, and they stole it. They stole the guitar. Car was locked. They broke in, stole the guitars. Dang. So I wound up. So what I have now, as a result of that, that was in the 90s. I have an Eddie Van Halen model Music Man guitar. I went in to buy the Steve Morse model, and the guy in the store is like, "You got to play the Van Halen model." I'm like, "I love Van Halen, but I want the Steve Morse model." And the guy's like, "No, play the Van Halen model." And I did, and like, there you go. And then my wife was like, "Hey, look, we're going to a guitar show. You need another guitar," because she know how heartbroken I was. Like me and my guitars, like, I went through shit with those guitars, man. Like I went through life with those guitars.
It's so funny you said that. 100%. I mean, I know, you know, and I'll let you. I just want to interject real quick. So same thing. You know, when I was, you know, I out of high school, I went into the service. Right, joined the Marine Corps. And came home on leave, and I picked up two guitars from the local guitar shop here in St. Louis. I picked up an Alvarez acoustic electric and a Gibson DC standard Les Paul, right? And I've had them ever since. And I threw a party, I don't know, it was about 10, 12 years ago, maybe about 15 years ago. I had this party at my house, and I woke up the next morning and my acoustic was gone. Now, keep in mind, when I bought that acoustic, I took it back to Camp Pendleton. I went all over the world with it. I had it in Australia. You know, this thing was, I mean, it was like having a dog, right? Like you sleep with it, you take it everywhere, and somebody had stole it. And I was so devastated. To make a long story short, these chicks that were at this party, they were like, and these are some like local hardcore chicks. They're like, "We're going to get your guitar back for you, Fears." I'm like, "Really?" And so for like 3 or 4 days, they rounded up their posse. They found the dude that had my guitar, somehow went to his house, like 4 or 5 chicks, knocked on the door, went in his bed, just like went in the house, went in the bedroom, got my guitar back, brought it back to me. And I was in tears, man. I literally was in tears when these chicks showed back up with my guitar. So I know how you feel, man. Like you have a connection with it because it's your instrument that you use.
It's been there through some of your hardest times, and it's created some of your greatest art.
100%.
Yep.
So I didn't mean to cut off your story there, but I know what you feel.
That was perfect. So my wife's like, you know, you need another guitar. Like we went out to this guitar show, and I picked up this, and I had a Fender Strat before. I pick up this Telly, and I'm like, you know, she's like, "What do you think?" You know, and my wife was the one. She's like, "Play that one." I'm like, "All right, I'll play that one." You know, it's a Telly. I'm like, "Whatever." I picked it up. I'm like, "Yeah, it's mine." Yeah.
You're like, "I love this thing."
Instantly. And so I've got this Telly I play. I've got an Ovation acoustic that I bought. It's a deep bowl cutaway Ovation acoustic. Amp-wise, what I used to play, I was a real maniac, man. Like I used to play through. I still have the Fender head. It was a 65 Blackface Bassman 50-watt head, unmodded.
Wow,
you basically you turn the sucker up to 10, turn everything up to 10, and it sounds amazing through a reissue Marshall vintage cab, like a slant top cab with 25-watt Celestians, and then I had a Music Man cab and a 50-watt 1971 Marshall JMP 50-watt head. That was my rig. I used to bring 2 half stacks everywhere.
Oh yeah, you had to.
I got tired of that, and I
Doesn't
bought
take
a
long.
Fender 410 Blues DeVille, and now I have that Blues DeVille, and I have a 410 Hot Rod DeVille.
Nice.
Pedal wise, I've got an old school. I actually have an original Ibanez TS9 tube screamer like Stevie Ray Vaughan used to use.
Oh no shit.
And then I have a reissue one. I use a reissue one at gigs. I got a what the heck is my delay? Is it a Boss? And I've got a Boss Turbo Overdrive when I want like a lot of distortion.
Yeah.
I've got a Phase 90. I got a Crybaby Wah. I've got an Arion flanger and a Boss chorus, and an Octaver. I don't use it all the time, obviously.
Oh,
but
for sure.
I have this like stupid big pedal board.
But it's all there and it's ready. I mean, when you're playing all those different, I mean, for all the classic rock, I mean, a lot of guys were using a lot of different effects at the time, so you got to be equipped and ready, whatever you're playing. So I get it.
We'll play like we do. One of the songs, the Van Halen songs we do is "Feel Your Love Tonight" off of the first Van Halen album.
Oh, nice.
And if you listen to that, there's delay. There's Eddie's Brown sound, right, with all that distortion, and then there's a phaser on it as well. So having that Phase 90 gives it that, it gets it that Van Halen sound, But
that's great, man. So when you're going, and just by the way, I love this conversation.
Yeah, I bet you never thought we were going to be talking about guitar pedals, right?
Did not even think about it, man. No. And, a lot of times I ask the question, what are you listening to? And sometimes we get, well, I don't really listen to music. And I'm like, well, this kind of fell in the water.
Breaks my brain.
Yeah, it breaks my brain.
Music is life, brother. Music and
is.
drag racing are twin sons born from different mothers. They're so same, but they're so different. But they're so the same,
They go hand in hand. I mean, when I was a kid, I started playing at 9, got into heavy metal. When I turned 16, I had a 66 Mustang with a 289 hypo. I put all my money into it. And that's what I did is I partied, had a beautiful girlfriend, played guitar in some bands and race people. And it was the perfect.
Is that life or what? Come on.
It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it really doesn't. And now I'm almost back to it again after 20 years of all kinds of craziness, So
love it.
Do you take a guitar with you whenever you're do you take one of your acoustics with you whenever you're going to race or going out of town?
So it's funny. Mike Gironi, who's my match race partner this weekend, Mike is also a musician. He's a damn good guitar player. He's a great singer. And we bring when Mike and I are racing each other, we both bring our acoustics and we do a jam session. So
that's
my
great,
buddy,
man.
My buddy Rocky Perone, who I've driven his funny cars, and his son Joey is driving, doing a killer job. And Rocky, he's another one you got to get on the show. I'll introduce you guys down the road.
I agree with Mike here too.
Jam party in the pit, man.
I'm just trying to think, racing during the day and into the early evening, and then get out of the pits, hop up on stage, and have a little all-star drag racing band.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we actually, it's funny. Funny Car Chaos in Maryland. By the time we had time after qualifying day, before race day, Friday into Saturday, it was like 11:30 at night, man. And we're doing an acoustic jam, me and Mike. So
that's great.
Yeah,
man.
I do, and I haven't done a lot of solo stuff. It just seems to be like every time Mike's like, "Hey," when Mike and I are at the same track at the same event, and we haven't raced each other in God probably 6 years, but we'll get together and we just have a blast, man. It's just it's like what do you want to play next? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Like start playing something, and we just have fun.
So do you guys, are you doing covers or do you like to improvise? Do you just like to start this jam?
Typically it's covers. It's covers because there'll be a group of people and we want to play what everybody wants to hear too.
Yeah, right. But, yep. Nice, man.
I'd say 8 years to be exact. There you go. Thanks, brother. At Island Dragway was the last time I was, before I had the supercharged motor and the altered, I had this 700 cubic inch injected motor. And we were goofing around. I had about 10% nitro in it, and we wanted to see what would happen. And burned all the spark plugs out of it. It was cool. But anyway, we whenever Mike and I are together, a lot of cover stuff. Mike's got some original stuff. I've got some original stuff, but we haven't learned each other's original stuff. I don't know, Mike. We may have to do that. We'll have to figure that out. But but yeah, it's laid back, and usually it's at one of these nostalgia funny car races, and we got a bunch of our funny car buddies hanging out, guys and gals, and we all get together, and then we crack open a couple of beers, and the guitars are out, and we just start playing cover tunes.
Oh, that's so good, man. You know, that's
everything from Green Day to Pink Floyd, you know,
to maybe some Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets or something. Some acoustic version of some Metallica. Maybe play one, try to do a solo on one. Are you a lead guitar player or more of a rhythm guy?
Both, really both.
Oh, that's great, man. Did you take lessons growing up? Or?
Yeah, so I had a good fortune of having a couple of. So I started young. So I have a family history with music on my mom's side. So my mom played guitar. She still sings in church, even though she doesn't really play anymore. Both my uncles played. My grandfather played. My great grandfather. I actually have my great grandfather's 1915 C melody sax.
Get out here.
Tenor, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like I started really young. I learned a lot on my own. I did 10 lessons when I lived in New Providence growing up here in Jersey. With the Department of Recreation, it was like a group lesson. I had 10 lessons in 6th grade, and I already knew a bunch of stuff by then. And then when I got into high school, I started getting really serious about it. Studied with a guy by the name of Jimmy Leahy, who Jimmy's dad, Harry Leahy, is a world-renowned jazz guy. Jimmy actually has toured with Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Oh, really? That's pretty awesome, man.
He played with Sheryl Crow. He played with John Wade. He played with a bunch of people. Jimmy is one of the best guitarists I've ever known. He's just outrageously good.
Yeah.
And then Carl Cochran, who's the guy who actually introduced me to my wife. Carl played with Jolyn Turner and like all these guys. Like, so Carl was an amazing guitar player. And then I studied with a jazz guy by the name of Tom Gavornik. But yeah, so I did lessons, but a lot of the stuff I did was really on my own.
Yeah, for sure. And I get that. I did for a short period of time, took some lessons and from a local guy who was just as a kid, I couldn't even have guitar lessons with him because he would be playing shit. And I'd just sit there and stare at him like, oh my God, you're so good, dude. You're so good. But that's awesome that you took jazz because, man, I love jazz, man. Like when you, like there's this band called Animals as Leaders. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They have
heard of them. Yeah.
And there's two guys, they both play 8-string guitars, but they're very jazzy, but it's very metal-esque.
Yeah, it's heavy jazz. It's wild.
It's like heavy jazz, but it's so cool, man, when they're just blowing through the scales. And there's something about odd time signatures. And I was in a
Tool.
Yeah, well, Tool is a whole different ball of wax.
Dude.
I mean, yeah,
Come on.
So good, man. Yeah, you know, now that I think about it, somebody was telling me there's a pretty well known pro mod racer, female, who's getting some good traction, no pun intended. That apparently her husband is in a band. He's a racer. I think he's a tuner. Adam, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Black and purple or black and blue. Shit, man. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to them at World Series of Pro Mods, but it was definitely something that I wanted to go talk to him about because I think it'd be cool to kind of, you know, find out who the musicians are at the events and then hang out on, you know, and jam in the pits. You know, that'd be super cool. But
you know, and there's a lot of them, surprisingly. And I'm trying to figure that out too, because there was one year I was out at PRI. A friend of mine had a sprint car on display in the Hillborn fuel injection booth.
Okay.
And so we're hanging out with the Hillborn guys, Dwayne Hillborn. And they're like, hey, we're going downtown Indy to the Slippery Noodle to the Blues Club, and we're going to play at a blues jam. I'm like, oh, wow.
That's cool.
And like, you know, Dwayne Hillborn plays blues guitar.
You were like, wait a second.
I'm like, wait, what? You know, and he was kind enough. I'm like, I had no idea about this. And Dwayne, he's like, well, here, man, you want to play? Like, use my guitar. And then like, I got to get up and play at the Slippery Noodle. You know, it was the greatest. And now it's been kind of a tradition. just about every year I'll sign up for it's an open jam night Wednesday before the PRI concert, PRI, convention. It's a concert before the convention.
Right.
But
do you usually do you get to Indianapolis a few days ahead of the event?
I show up there on Wednesday.
Well, shit, man. I mean, we'll be there this. I don't know if you're going this year, but we'll be there this year. Well, then, shit, man, we'll have to hook up, and I'd love to go to Slippery Noodle and hang out, and watch some blues, man.
Just the name of the bar. I'm interested.
Yeah, you are.
It is the oldest, longest running bar in Indianapolis. I think the place has been open for over 100 years.
Oh, wow.
It's got a great vibe, man. It's got a great vibe. Obviously, they've got great music playing. They've got a couple of different rooms with music happening. You'll love it, man. We'll get together at PRI. We'll make sure we make that happen.
For sure, man. Well, shit, I could go another hour talking about music, but I think we're a little past our time here, but no big deal. But Joe, hey, man, dude, I mean, come on. This was just a great conversation. Like, I appreciate you being on, and
thanks for having me.
I want to tell Nick again, thanks, Nick, for having Joe, on with us, and made another friend, and not just another racer, but a musician as well. So this is a cool bonding moment. As weird as that might sound,
absolutely, man, right on. And I appreciate you guys having me on again. I'm glad you're carrying the torch for ADRL and have the vision and the dedication to bring it back. And I think it's a fantastic thing. Whatever I can do for you guys down the road, and hopefully I get to race with you at some point too. I'd certainly want to do that. And drag racing and rock and roll. What else can you say, man? I appreciate it. It's been great. I've had a blast tonight, and thanks, Nick, for hooking us all up. And now that we got each other's contact information, man, like we'll get together and make some things happen.
Amen, Joe. Well, hey, again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you at least at PRI, if not before that, man.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Bye, brother. Have a good night. Wow, Nick, another banger.
Telling you, it's like his hidden superpower.
It is Nick's hidden superpower. Okay, Nick. All right, man. Wow, that was super cool. That was gosh.
Time flies when you're having fun.
The one thing that I could talk music all day.
Mm-hmm.
I love drag racing and I love hot rods.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to kind of get more comfortable talking about dragsters and pro mods, and I've gotten a good understanding. I just, heck yeah, Joe. I think about how easy it is for me to have a conversation about music. I wish, and coming from a long line of musicians, I almost wish I had that same thing to say about drag racing, where I could get on the same level with some of these guys about drag racing, because
when you started playing music at 9, were you able to talk the same talk or have the same background? It takes getting into it and getting involved in it, and then having the passion for it to then want to learn about it and seek that kind of stuff out. So
that's true. Would it be weird to say that sometimes I almost adding a good match race to your event?
That was the kind of one lingering question in my mind is, the one thing that the ADRL really hasn't ventured into that I know of or recently is Nitro. And it's just always that lingering thing of, is there a way of adding Nitro to ADRL? Something?
I don't know. Weird.
I think out loud. That's all.
I feel like we're having deja vu right now, Adam.
Yeah, I don't know. Lunch today.
Weird. It's weird. We were just talking about that at lunch today, as a matter of fact. Nothing. Look, we're in America. We can do what we want, right?
That's what we fought.
Nitro and guitars. Hell yeah. I mean,
the Bay in Boston.
When I think about Nitro and guitars, you know what I think about? I envision like Guitar Hero type shit, but all I picture is flames coming out of funny cars and dragsters, heavy metal, and fans. And I don't know how to put that
like Mad Max
all together. And Mad Max. I don't know how to put all that together. But dude, somehow, some way. Hey, we live in America. It's free.
I'm sitting here in, boy, how do we start up a Friday evening tradition that after, the first round of qualifying ends and Friday night wraps up, that there's some sort of coordinated, hey, if you're a musician, grab your instrument and let's all hang out, meet up around here and just have a big old kind of jam circle.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think it would have to be a Saturday night thing though, because I know Friday nights usually, well, Friday nights, everybody, we're finished with testing. Everybody's working on their gear and trying to get ready for qualifying.
Do it both nights then.
Yeah, do it both. If you're available, let's jam both nights. Get something going with Altereds and Coop in and have Joe drive it. Well, I mean, we do have Altereds. I mean, we run Altereds in our extreme dragster class.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have Altereds. We have the Patriot. We run dragsters and Altereds together, and nobody has a problem with it. They have a good time.
It's a great class, great people. I'll tell you that.
For sure. And it's getting a lot of momentum. I mean, we have more and more show up every time, and the guys are really loving it. I know Toby Baptiste from Renegade Racing Fuels, one of our sponsors, he absolutely loves the class. He supports the shit out of it. Dan Lucas, John Sullivan, all of it. Exactly. Trollson's, so it is getting some good momentum. Yeah, 100%. So look, I will say this. And Adam, I want to give you, I just want to say I'm grateful for the podcast because it does open a lot of opportunity for us to kind of get the word out there and meet new people. And Nick, thank you for that. Because look, I'm new on this side of the fence and I don't have a lifetime of history with racers and stuff. Like, as you could see, Dan Lucas talking about, oh yeah, we've been hanging out for 50 years. I'm like, oh gosh. So guys like Dan and everybody else, or even guys my age that were hanging out with racers when they were kids.
It's over here. Look over here.
I'm sold on joining. It's a haul, but it would be. What am I pointing at?
I was pointing at the chat with Mike. Mike.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Sweet. Awesome, Mike. Hell yeah, man. So, it's we don't have the Rolodex or the network, but we're certainly getting a tremendous amount of traction, especially now we've put on a few events. The racers really see what we're doing and the passion that we have to get this back up on plane and really make it a great event again, not just for spectators, but for the racers as well. And, I'm going to take the easy way out and we'll just keep it as, oh, no kidding. Awesome, man. We want to keep this, we'll just keep it no rules to make life easier on us. After you,
I'll tell you what, it sure as hell makes life easier on me. As a guy who, I've been to 5 drag races in my life and only have a, middling interest in cars or anything like that. You saw me at Fastlane today. Could I have been more bored? No, cars aren't my thing. But like I've talked. But
I tell you what I tell you what is your thing. How damn awesome the racers and the community and the families and everybody. It's the off the track stuff,
people,
man. That is
stories. It's the interactions. It's the stuff that happens on the track. I love the fact that, really on site, my job is to kind of set up cameras and point them in the right direction. And I can honestly kind of walk away, which I usually do. And then you'll find me out in the middle of the track with my camera, and it's fun being up close. But the race part is probably what I remember the least percentage of the entire event. It's the walking around in the pits. It's the talking to this person. It's the somebody I don't know yelling Prince Adam out of the blue. And I'm like, right. That kind of stuff.
Well, now you're like best friends with everybody. You're like, oh yeah, I've been talking to so-and-so at the track. And so-and-so. And I'm like, dude, you're like,
I'm a social butterfly on the track, which is, fits what I'm like in real life to a T. So it's great. But no, that's the stuff that I love. And that's the thing that's gotten me really interested. Plus, me and my brain, I love planning processes and procedures. So the behind the scenes stuff just that really fits right up my alley too. So right up in your alley. You know it.
Oh wait, this is a Tuesday night.
I keep a wide alley to keep all my experiences going. So,
and by the way, man, this is one of my favorite shirts.
Love those guys. They're hilarious shirts.
Duncan D's nuts. Yeah, funny. Love it. But yeah, so again, Adam, Nick, appreciate you guys because this is how the networking gets done, and
100%
show the fans what they want to see, and heck yeah. And you know what? Look, and I'll keep promoting this on each one of the podcasts. I can't do it on my own. Prince Adam and I can't do it on our own. My mother, who helps us, can't do it by herself. We're going to have to make a heavy push, getting more participation from the racers, promoting the events as well. I know there's maybe been some reluctancy due to the history, and I'm not trying to dig up any old weeds or anything, but I hope now that after a couple years of doing this, and I do believe that everybody sees where our hearts lie and our character lies as far as doing the right thing for the right reason. I think that then becomes our foundation per se, or whatnot. But reputation. That's exactly the word I was looking for. It is our reputation at this point, so we are making the ADRL great again, and it's just going to take a lot of work and support from the racers as well. We're gonna, we'll keep grinding to make sure we get spectators there, but we need some long burnouts. We need some good killer long burnouts. We're gonna have to get the school bus to come do a wheelie.
Let me find it earlier. Nick had said 1,000. He was talking about 1,000 for longest burnout.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it came up while you guys were talking kind of early in the conversation. So I didn't want to interrupt, but I did make mental note of that so that we could use that for later.
I mean, the longest burnout. I mean, when you're doing a burnout super long, I mean, that doesn't kill the tires, right? I can't imagine that would kill the tires. I mean, it might take a couple passes off of them, but hey, here's $1,000 to get a new set.
Yeah, throw a set of old ones on there, maybe. I don't know,
dude. I like that idea, Nick. Great idea. And any of the racers that want to participate in that would be awesome. But so yeah, this is super cool. Super excited. Another great interview, Joe. Thank you so much, man. And that was just a very informative, eye-opening, awesome conversation. I've always wanted to talk to somebody that raced a nitro car, because in my mind it's a whole nother world, dude. It's like the difference between flying a Cessna and being an F-18 fighter pilot. It's two totally different things. So anyways, that's what I got. So again, thanks everybody for joining in. Thanks for hanging out and listening to us interview Joe Morrison. Not really Joe interview, but more of just some kills valve springs. Oh yeah. Oh, it does. Yeah, because you're just at a high RPM doing a burnout the whole way. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough. Hey, fair enough. Anybody wants to blow their motor up for $1,000?
Yeah, that's pretty comparable.
I hope
for a blown motor, and that's going right.
Yeah, right. I hope that at least to cover valve springs, and I hope that the equipment isn't as hard to get now as it was over the past few years. I'm hoping that the what's the word I'm looking for? The
technology
products are there. Well, no, just in general availability of the products. I hope everything's
just general supply chain.
Yeah, exactly. But we do want to race. We do want to thank Toby Baptiste and Renegade Racing Fuels, Fuel Tech USA, Luis. Love you, man. Hope everything's good. And of course, Chris Duncan and Chris Duncan Race Cars and Amanda Hoover. Miss you guys. Hope you guys are kicking ass up there, getting the Chevelle from hell ready for Huntsville and XRP, because that's going to be a banger. As far as Huntsville is too, I can't downplay Huntsville. I don't know. Maybe it's because we have experience at XRP, so I know what it's going to be like. Huntsville's going to be great as well.
Oh yeah,
I've heard nothing but good stuff. So yeah, amen. So October 25th and 26th, Rocket City Drags, Huntsville, Alabama. Be there, be square. Troy Libby, he'll turn up for a quarter mile. Yeah, for sure. And a whole quarter mile. That'd be funny. That'd be awesome, as a matter of fact. So if anybody's got some ideas, as far as I know, we're on the one side of the fence from participants and being family members, the racers, and so on and so forth. But from a spectator standpoint, if anybody has any cool ideas other than like a jet car and a bus doing wheelies, which is pretty bitching, let us know. We want to entertain some ideas to really give the spectators a good time, so he has done it, a quarter mile burnout. Man, that's the baddest shit ever. I'd love to see that. Oh my Lord. I have $1,000 all day long. Here you go, man.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, thanks again for joining in. I'm Dr. Fears.
I'm Prince Adam.
And we will see you guys next time. Peace
indeed.
And chicken grease.